Senator Jon Ossoff put on a generational performance today in the Senate, not only because of maybe the most newsy moment of the day in which Tulsi Gabbard simply could not answer his question about whether Iran actually posed, and we know they did not, an imminent nuclear threat to the United States. Donald Trump went to war illegally with Iran, of course, on behalf of Israel, and to distract from the Epstein files, which is what Senator Ossoff made clear when he leaked an email of Donald Trump's connected to this war and its real purpose, not the lie that this White House is telling, be for Congress. I want to get into it all and what it means more broadly for Trump's illegal war effort, Tulsi Gabbard's time as DNI and whether that might be coming to a close, and so much more. But before we get to it, we do have to start with that grilling from Senator Ossoff because it sets up him leaking this email just so perfectly.
The White House stated on March 1st of this year that this war was launched and was, quote, a military campaign to eliminate the imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime, end quote. That's a statement from the White House. Quote, the imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime. Was it the assessment of the intelligence community that there was an imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime?
The intelligence community assessed that Iran maintained the intention to rebuild and to continue to grow their nuclear enrichment capability.
Was it the assessment of the intelligence community that there was a, quote, imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime, yes or no?
Senator, the only person who can determine what is and is not an imminent threat is the president.
False. This is the worldwide threats hearing where you present to Congress national intelligence, timely, objective, and independent of political considerations. You've stated today that the intelligence community's assessment is that Iran's nuclear enrichment program was obliterated and that, quote, there had been no efforts since then to try to rebuild their enrichment capability. Was it the intelligence community's assessment that nevertheless, despite this obliteration, there was a, quote, imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime? Yes or no?
It is not the intelligence community's responsibility to determine what is and is not an imminent threat.
Okay.
That is up to the president based on a volume of information that he receives.
It is precisely your responsibility to determine what constitutes a threat to the United States. This is the worldwide threats hearing where, as you noted in your opening testimony, quote, you represent the IC's assessment of threats. You are here to represent the IC's assessment of threats. That's a quote from your own opening statement. And so my question is, as you're here to present the IC's assessment of threats, was it the assessment of the intelligence community that, as the White House claimed on March 1st, there was a, quote, imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime? Yes or no?
Once again, Senator, the intelligence community has provided the inputs that make up this annual threat assessment.
You won't answer the question.
It is the nature of the imminent threat that the president has to make that determination based on a collection and volume
You're here
of
to be
information and
timely,
intelligence that he is provided with.
You're here to be timely, objective, and independent of political considerations.
Exactly what I'm doing.
No, you're evading a question because to provide a candid response to the committee would contradict a statement from the White House. Let me ask you about
Jon Ossoff is so damn good at this. And of course, Tulsi Gabbard couldn't and wouldn't answer. She has been cut out of so much of the decision-making process when it comes to matters in which the Director of National Intelligence would historically be involved. One, because the administration can't really trust her. They don't know if she might be leaking, if she might have alternative motives. We know that Tulsi Gabbard was selling no war with Iran shirts during her 2020 presidential campaign. Of course, she then abandoned whatever principle she might have had. I can't even claim that it was a principle at this point to get in line behind Donald Trump. But we don't know where Tulsi is, much like J.D. Vance on most of these issues and whether she's trying to preserve her political future. But we do know that there was no imminent threat. She could not answer to it. She would not say it because she would be perjuring herself. And I guess that is where Tulsi draws the line. But it wasn't the only important revelation to come out of this hearing because of Senator Ossoff, because the email that he leaked, that he shared in front of Congress, I think represents why this war is taking place, what Trump is after, and so much more. And it's just disturbing.
I want to call everyone's attention again to this fundraising email signed by the president that Senator Kelly mentioned earlier, in which the president of the United States invites his campaign donors to, quote, claim your spot, join now to receive private national security briefings, to his political donors, featuring a photo of the president at a dignified transfer ceremony with a flag-draped coffin of an American service member killed in action returning to their family. And the American people need to know that the President of the United States is fundraising for his political campaign and his PAC using images of American service members killed in action, and it's a disgrace.
Fundraising off of dead service members. Fundraising off of dead service members. That is what Donald Trump is doing, sending fundraising emails with photos of dead service members. It was not just enough for Donald Trump to wear his merch to a dignified transfer, but then he had to fundraise off of it. And that is what Donald Trump is ultimately trying to do with his illegal war. If you don't think that the market is being manipulated to serve Donald Trump and those with insider information, talk about the price of crude oil spiking, dropping, depending on what Donald Trump says any given day. Now, presidents have always had the power, always inadvertently, to shape how the market moves with just a couple of words. But Donald Trump is the first president to ever do it intentionally because they have a stake. Donald Trump could tell a couple of people with, big bank accounts that, hey, I'm gonna say that this war is over. And then, of course, we'd see the price of oil drop. Then Donald Trump said, well, I think we're going to stick around for a couple more weeks and months. The price of oil goes back up. Trump says, well, I think we're going to open the Strait of Hormuz. The price of oil drops. No one comes to his rescue. It explodes. And that is what we were seeing. Donald Trump playing the market and using American lives to do it. That is a damning indictment of Donald Trump. And I'm glad that Senator Ossoff brought attention to it because it is disgusting. But that is what Donald Trump is after, enriching himself and escaping and evading accountability, which is why I was a little surprised that Tulsi went so silent, considering that Donald Trump is maybe looking to shake up more of his administration. He's at least looking to throw Tulsi Gabbard under the bus in the wake of the resignation of Joe Kent, which is exactly what he did late yesterday. I think it kind of plays into the conversation that I want to have about Tulsi's future. But first, let's check out this article breaking it all down. Trump White House throws Tulsi Gabbard under the bus for reportedly failing to fire Joe Kent for leaking. Fox News White House correspondent and anchor Ashaya Hasni reported on Tuesday in the wake of Joe Kent's scathing resignation that the Trump White House had pushed Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard to fire him. Kent, a MAGA influencer who served as Trump's Director of National Counterterrorism Center, became the first major administration official to resign in protest over the Iran war on Tuesday morning. Gabbard, along with Kent, has had long been a leading isolationist, I should say, figure inside the Trump administration. Having once been aligned with Bernie Sanders in that wing of the Democratic Party, Gabbard has been a vocal anti-interventionist in D.C. and was once a fierce critic of Trump's foreign policy in the Middle East. Hasni reported that, according to a senior administration official, Kent was long cut off from intelligence briefings and was suspected of leaking. Hasni wrote on social media that the official told her, a known leaker, and he was cut out of POTUS intelligence briefings months ago. The White House told DNI Tulsi Gabbard he should be fired for suspected leaks, but she never did. He has not been part of any Iran planning discussions or briefings at all. Later in the day, Hasni reported that according to a source in Gabbard's office, the White House never directly told her to fire Kent. On background from the office of the Director of National Intelligence, it's true, Kent was not involved in briefings on Iran. However, Gabbard was never asked to fire him, or else she would have. Gabbard has been in touch, I suspect that is, with the White House since Kent's resignation today. Meanwhile, a second senior U.S. official tells Fox the White House complained to Gabbard about Kent several times before, but they are under the impression that the White House never directly told Gabbard explicitly to fire Kent, or she would have. So we have a little internal lobbying game going on in the press. We have Tulsi Gabbard saying, well, I would always listen to dear leader Trump, and it's not my fault. And it's the White House saying, well, Tulsi's the one with the problems here. Tulsi is the one who didn't act, right? This was a loose cannon, a leaker. How could we have this person in our midst? Tulsi, you should have taken care of it. It's your fault. It's not the fault of Donald Trump. And we can't even trust, the White House is saying, Joe Kent, because he should have long been fired. And if he should have long been fired, doesn't that reflect poorly on Tulsi Gabbard? Maybe someone should check in on her? No? Okay. Well, I think that is how the White House wants to frame this. And it comes as Donald Trump might be looking for another person to fire. He's shaking up his administration. And it seems like if he's going to shake up his administration, he'll give the boot to women first. No love lost, Kristi Noem. And this also comes as Donald Trump is looking to put in place people who he can be assured will listen to everything he says, which Tulsi has largely done. And in one way that she's done it, on foreign election interference, Mark Warner raised today, I think it's quite important as we hear from Mark Wayne Mullen about how he will be happily sending his thugs to polling locations.
You have not provided any of the required reports or briefings to this committee on foreign interference. This is the first threat assessment since 2017 It didn't even mention foreign interference. Last year, when you were in already confirmed, it mentioned it at high level. Are you saying there is no foreign threat to our elections in the midterms this year?
As I stated in the outset of my remarks, this year's annual threat assessment matches the prioritization of threats and
Please answer the
focus
question, yes or no. Is there foreign threat interference
that
to
the
our elections this year?
President has laid out.
Are there foreign?
Please allow me to answer the question, sir. The intelligence community has been and continues to remain focused on any collection and intelligence products
ma'am,
that show a potential
ma'am.
foreign threat for those who are
So
seeking
far,
to
there has been none then, because you've made
in our
no
election
reports.
system.
There will be foreign election interference, and Donald Trump will let it happen. Now, I'm not saying that polls are going to be directly hacked, but we already know that there are Russian bots that just run Twitter at this point and shape a lot of the discussion for the right. So there will be interference, and Tulsi Gabbard's going to turn a blind eye, and maybe that's what keeps her in this administration. But it seems like there's a lot of backstabbing going on, a little bit of a MAGA civil war that we are certainly going to cover.